Okay, so a lot of things are wrong with the Cleveland Browns right now, but I think the main thing that we can see from watching this team that's wrong with the team is clearly the offense. They have been underperforming for what feels like about a month. And honestly, longer than that, there were two kind of aberrations, the Chargers game and the Bengals game. But other than that, the offense has been pretty woeful. And a lot of people have their theories on what's going to fix it, what's not going to fix it, what can change here, and what's not going to change. Well, I'm just going to drop some opinions of mine that I think are going to help the Browns offense. But before I do that, I want to make sure I give a shout out to the patreon.com dog check tier members. I'm going to start with Again, guys, thank you so much for your support. It means a ton to me. Now let's jump into the video. Okay, so these are going to be my 5 things I think that the Browns could have done during the bye week that could make their lives a lot easier on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I know what a lot of people, when they see the title of this video, they think one of the things that has to be on here is Kevin Stefanski giving up the play calling and letting it go to Alex Van Pelt. Now, I have gone on record multiple times on why I'm not a fan of that idea, but I'll just kind of condense it into spark notes for everybody who does not know. But I think Alex Van Pelt does not need to be the play caller, and I don't think that the play calling has been the biggest issue in the world when it comes to why this offense is struggling. I think it has to do a lot more with execution and things that are kind of bigger than just the play calling. Yeah, sometimes the play calling isn't great, but I don't think the play calling is the source of the issue, right? It's not like they're executing these play calls out great and there's nothing's happening. They're not executing well, period, on the offense, so it's kind of hard to evaluate the play calling at this point, especially the last 4 weeks. And also, Alex Van Pelt is kind of responsible for this offense being as bad as it is, and the ideal of him getting a promotion really just doesn't sit well with me, because it's like, why in the world would we think Alex Van Pelt is going to be the answer when he has been part of the problem when it comes to how this offense is put together? I just don't think it would be smart to make him the play caller, because there's no evidence that that's going to help anything. But nonetheless, let's get into the 5 things I do think are going to help now that we got the elephant out the room, out the way. And the first thing I'm going to put here is more pre-snap options. Now, there are 2 sides to this coin, right? But right now, what we do know from just studying film, listening to the games, and listening to what Baker does at the line of scrimmage, it seems as if Baker has 2 play calls every play. One that is called and intended to go right away, and then one he can check into, right? There are 2 calls. He can kill it or he can go with it, and that's what the play call usually is. There's 2 calls. Baker can check or kill at any point. And sometimes I see him check into runs where he's running straight into a blitz. Sometimes it works out. But I think one of the things that can help this team be a little bit less predictable is if there were more pre-snap options available for Baker Mayfield to go to. Now, here's the caveat. The Browns might not feel comfortable giving Baker Mayfield that reign because they don't trust him in his pre-snap ability. And from what we have seen on tape, and this is fair to say because this is not just 1 year of tape. This is like 3 years of tape that we're talking about on Baker Mayfield. He's not the greatest pre-snap quarterback in the NFL, and that's fine. You can be a good quarterback and not be a great pre-snap quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger, famously one of those guys who weren't great pre-snap quarterbacks, but just really good quarterbacks. Like, it exists in the NFL. It's not a death sentence for a quarterback, but we do know that that's not one of Baker Mayfield's strengths. So if that's the case, do you want to give him more responsibility? Do you want to give him more flexibility, or do you want to stick with the same thing? And my reason for going against that is simply right now the offense seems to be a little predictable. You need to do something to be less predictable. And at this point in the season, how you become less predictable is having more pre-snap options. Like, that's how you can become a lot less predictable. And we need Baker Mayfield to do that. And we need to know that if we do give Baker Mayfield that responsibility, how good can he be with that, right? You know, you got to give him enough room to mess up before you just assume he's not going to be good at it. So that's why I would go with more pre-snap options. Maybe this opens up the offense more. Maybe this allows Baker to take advantage of what he's seeing more often, and it also just allows the offense to be a little bit less predictable, which has become a bit of a problem with this team. The next thing that I have here to help the Browns offense is use your wide receivers a lot more than you do now. I mean, I have gone over this for a few weeks, but the wide receiver usage on this team, not great. And I know people are going to jump to, there were like 2 games where the wide receivers had drop issues, but also the tight ends have had drop issues this year too. So like, everybody's dropping the ball. So I don't know why we're discriminating between the tight ends and the wide receivers at this point. Like, all of them have not really been great at catching the ball, but you got to throw it to somebody, right? So that is what it is. And honestly, if you're going to throw the ball, if you're going to throw these screens, I would rather those screens go into the hands of the more athletic players who can make bigger plays, because getting the ball down the field has also been an issue for this team, especially when we talk about getting chunk plays. We've not been able to get chunk plays. There's been too many 5-yard plays, 2-yard plays that set up a 3rd and short, and this team is not good at 3rd down this year. So, and part of the reason they're not good at 3rd down is because on a 3rd and 2, they'll get a penalty for holding or false start and push that 3rd and 2 back into a 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 7. So, knowing that you suck on 3rd down, you should be aiming to get more chunk plays. How do you get more chunk plays? You utilize the more athletic players on your roster. That means less Austin Hooper, less Harrison Bryant, more David Njoku, more Donovan Peoples-Jones, and more Jarvis Landry, like, point blank. Like, I know I said wide receivers, but I just want more athleticism in that passing game. And right now we're getting 2-yard chunks in the passing game or 3-yard chunks. It's just not enough for a team that's not great on 3rd down. Either when it comes to running the ball, we don't convert well on 3rd down. When it comes to passing the ball, we don't convert well on 3rd down. So let's do everything that the Browns can do to move the ball down the field without running into 3rd down, because 3rd down has just been a problem that I don't think we're going to be able to solve by the end of this year. I hope we can, but I just don't think the problems there are going to be able to be solved right here, because honestly, they've existed the entire year. So that's kind of one of the things I want them to do. Get more athletic / more wide receivers. The third thing I think could help this Browns offense is if they can simplify these personnel packages on offense. Now, what do I mean by this? You ever watch the Browns play and then randomly Demetric Felton's in for a play instead of Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb, or Dearness Johnson's in for a play instead of one of these guys for a specific, like, drawn up play, or it's Anthony Schwartz, or it's somebody that you have on a team that's good at one thing but not good at most things, and they're in for a player who's usually a star. And this drives me crazy about the Browns, right? They have a ton of different personnel packages on offense, and like, none of them work. And I think it would help this team from a play calling perspective. It would help this team from a operations perspective. So line of scrimmage, not getting those false starts, not getting those penalties, if they just simplified these personnel packages. We don't have to play all 3 tight ends every play. We don't have to go to the 5th wide receiver here. We don't have to go to the 4th running back and the 5th running back, we don't have to reach this deep into the depth chart on every drive just to get everybody out there. This is kind of like basketball, right? In the regular season, basketball teams will have like 10, 11-man, 12-man rotations, and everybody gets to play almost. But when it comes to the playoffs, you go to an 8-man rotation, right? Like, it gets simplified. Your personnel packages get simplified. It's time for the Browns to simplify this, right? Donovan Peoples-Jones should not leave the field. Jarvis Landry should not leave the field very often. David Njoku, if you have a tight end out there, he's the tight end. Like, he needs to be out there. And if you need another one, Austin Hooper. And if you need a 3rd tight end, you can roll Harrison Bryant out there. But we're not designing plays for Harrison Bryant anymore, right? Chubb and Hunt should be the only 2 running backs on the field. If you need somebody to give both of them a breather, Dearness Johnson. We don't need to experiment with Demetric Felton at this point of the year. We'll do that next year or during training camp. Because Kareem Hunt's a better receiver than Demetric Felton is, and he's a better runner. He's just a better player right now. So we don't need to put Demetric Felton out there. And I think that, just simplifying that, right, because a lot of the issues with the Browns is like you'll see somebody come out to the huddle, they have to run back, the quarterback can't step in, get the play call yet because there's too many people in the huddle. Then he does, but the play clock is like at 10 or 11 seconds, so they have to get set, get this here. There's not enough time for a pre-snap read, and it's just too much going on with these personnel packages to make sure that everybody's just doing what they're supposed to do and trusting that you're going to have everybody doing what they're supposed to do. So simplify these personnel packages so Baker can get to the line of scrimmage, start making his pre-snap read with probably about like 15 seconds on that play clock and get that snap off within like 5 or 7 seconds, right? Because the difference that makes is when you're snapping the ball constantly at 1 or 2 seconds, it makes it a lot easier for those defensive ends on the other team to jump your snap count. So again, small things can make a big difference and can make a big help. And this is one of those small things. They have too many personnel packages. They have too many people involved in these personnel packages. And it's time they condense this and just keep the good players out there most of the time. Defensively, you can also say this because I think they take Myles Garrett off the field way too much. But the next thing they can do to help the Browns offense is make Njoku the feature tight end. No more messing around with Austin Hooper. No more messing around with Harrison Bryant. David Njoku should be your number 1 tight end. He should be the guy that you draw up all these plays for. He should be somebody in the game plan that you want to get targets. He should be who you want to use in the game. So make David Njoku the feature tight end. Treat him like a feature tight end. Treat David Njoku, and let's see if David can handle this responsibility and make something happen of this. But treat David Njoku, if you're going to run these tight ends out there as often as you do, treat him like the Ravens treat Mark Andrews, or treat him like, the Chiefs treat Travis Kelce. I'm not saying that he's on that level of play with those guys. Obviously, he's never done anything close to that. But he's the best tight end that you have. He's the most dynamic threat at tight end that you have. So let's see how far he can go with this. If we give him more responsibility, how much can he make of it? That's what you want to see with David Njoku. So I want to make David the feature tight end and treat him like a feature tight end, because I don't think running these 3 tight end sets work if you don't have a feature or a star tight end. The last thing I think can help the Browns offense, and again, this is a small thing, but I think it's going to make a big difference, is more Kareem Hunt out the gun on first down, right? If you're going to run the ball on first down, let's switch up the looks, right? Because a lot of the times when the Browns run the ball on first down, it's that heavy package with no wide receivers on the field. It's pretty much a goal line package on the 25-yard line. And they're running the ball downfield, either left or right, to Nick Chubb off tackle, right? Like, that's usually how they do this thing, and it's become very, very predictable. If you put Kareem Hunt in there, who I feel like is a better runner on first down, just because Kareem Hunt goes downhill instead of side to side like Nick Chubb likes to do. So instead of worrying if you're going to lose 2 yards on a run here with Nick Chubb, because sometimes Nick Chubb gets caught in the backfield, with Kareem Hunt, he rarely ever gets caught in the backfield. So have him shoot out that shotgun formation And then worst case scenario, you get 3 yards, right? Also, it makes your run sets a lot less predictable because, again, you're in the gun. Teams aren't expecting you to run. You might run, but it's not really expected. So you can play around with that, add a read option in there, play around with the options you get there. But that's one change. I think it's small. That would be a huge change, is instead of going to Nick Chubb on first down, let's put Kareem Hunt in there. I think you have a wider variety of threats that you can come out of the backfield with when you have Kareem Hunt back there on first down versus Nick Chubb, who we know if he's back there, he's more than likely there to run the football. But those are my 5 things I think could really help the Cleveland Browns offense. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.